Hey guys, welcome back to Joe Talks, and today I'm going to be reacting to the trilogy of KFC theories made by MatPat. So, couple things I have to go over. First, I said I was going to do a Minecraft live stream today, but, here's a problem. I kept trying to go in, and the game crashed. Over and over. Nothing I tried worked. So, sorry about that. Next week, we'll just go back to the normal schedule as usual. Because, I haven't done Pokemon in a while, but instead of Pokemon Soul Silver, I want to try Black 2 for a change. Just for one live stream, and then go back to Soul Silver. Because, Pokemon Black 2 is probably one of the best Pokemon games ever made, so that's what I wanted to do. So that's why there was no live stream today. Also, I am currently still working on the Among Us highlight reel, and hopefully it should be out by tomorrow. I've got all of the clips that I need. Well, almost. I just need one more clip, but other than that, I just need to put them together. So, yeah, let's just watch this 3-part KFC theory, and here we go. Okay, so the first one is KFC secret recipe, and apparently MatPat knows the answer to it,
So, has anyone actually ever figured out Colonel Sanders' secret recipe blend of 11 herbs and spices? Dozens upon dozens of individuals claim to have solved the world-renowned mystery, but which of them, if any, should we believe?
Oh, hang on.
Should we believe the Colonel's own nephew, who used to mix the spices himself when he was a child? The scientist who chemically analyzed KFC's ingredients in a laboratory? Or should we believe KFC, the multinational corporation that has nothing to gain and everything to lose by the recipe becoming public knowledge, who claims to this very day, quote, "No one's ever been right"? Well, never fear, theorists, because today's food theory will answer it all. We're putting the most legitimate contenders to the test, as well as our own. Spoiler alert, I think we've got it. Hey guys, welcome to Food Theory, where today we're doing something very scary, actually cooking.
Cooking food, oh my gosh.
And not just cooking any food, we are cooking perhaps one of the best kept secret foods in all of history, Colonel Sanders' secret recipe.
Yes. What do you think the secret is, Matthew?
I think the secret is love.
Oh man, and I was thinking it was just like little clippings of his beard that had fallen into the chicken batter.
So I think everyone can agree that KFC's 11 infamous herbs and spices are one of the most renowned secret recipes in food history. And we've found a lot of different recipes that say that they've cracked the code. And today we're gonna put them to the test.
Yeah, so we have 5 different dupe recipes that we're going to be trying today. Some of them are crowdsourced, some of them come from food scientists.
And some of them even come from Colonel Sanders himself.
Ooh.
Question mark.
Let's get going.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover today and a lot of chicken that needs to be fried, so let's stop throwing our bowls around and start cooking. As we throw our bowls in the ring, it's important to keep in mind that recreating KFC's original recipe is a bit like hitting a moving target. People have been trying to get the recipe right since before I was born, and during that time, the taste of KFC's chicken has changed to a certain degree. The secret 11 herbs and spices almost certainly haven't, but we know for a fact that KFC has tweaked other aspects of the recipe and preparation process, like adopting new frying oils that contain fewer trans fats. Even the late Colonel Sanders believed his recipe was altered to a noticeable degree degree during his own lifetime. Shortly after selling Kentucky Fried Chicken in 1964, he began voicing displeasure about perceived recipe changes being made under KFC's new ownership. As a result, some of the recipe contenders we're looking at today seek to recreate the Colonel's true original recipe before KFC corporate took over. Other recipe contenders seek to recreate the taste of KFC's original recipe the way we've come to know and love it in more recent decades. In recent years, KFC has adopted soybean oil as its frying oil of choice in many locations, especially here in the US. Since we'll be comparing our recipe contenders against contemporary KFC chicken fried in soybean oil, we're gonna fry all of our contender recipes in soybean oil too. Last thing I'll mention, it's well known that KFC fries their chicken in pressure fryers, which not only fry the chicken faster, but also give KFC's fried chicken its distinct extra crispy texture. Sadly, I didn't have one of those in the kitchen, so today's contender recipes are gonna have to settle for the deep fryer. Steph and I promise to judge them not on texture, but taste and taste alone. And also, to be fair, our chicken totally turned out crispier. Just saying. Now, without further ado, let's put our first contender to the test. This recipe was developed by author and TV host Todd Wilbur.
So Todd Wilbur, for those who don't know, is actually famous for recreating famous recipes. He's done the Big Mac, he's done Wendy's chili, he's done a whole bunch of secret famous recipes that you shouldn't technically be able to make at home, including the KFC original recipe.
Do you really need someone to recreate the Big Mac? The commercials tell you what's in it.
2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and a sesame seed bun.
Well, there's the
2 all-beef
special
patties,
sauce.
special sauce.
Special sauce. What's that?
Isn't it just Thousand Island dressing?
I don't. What? He's also done Mrs. Fields cookies.
Oh, that was good.
I don't.
Big Mac sauce is not actually Thousand Island dressing. Oh, that's nice. Because I was getting worried for a second.
What? He's also done Mrs. Fields cookies. Anyway, I thought that was interesting.
That does sound delicious.
I know.
I love this man. Why? Can we hire him? I feel like this is a person who should be on this channel.
He's already a best-selling author who's been on like every major talk show. He doesn't need us.
But has he been on YouTube before? We can poorly animate a stick figure of him for years.
That does sound like a high-value proposition. We should call him.
We should. Call us up, Todd Wilbur.
Well, let's see how his recipe works out first and then decide.
All right, yeah.
Okay.
Good point. Now, the reason we're starting with this recipe is because Todd Wilbur, on top of being a guy who's talented enough to have made a career out of hacking recipes, really seems to have done the legwork to get the recipe right. In 2011, Wilbur's TV show, Top Secret Recipes, visited KFC's pressure fryer supplier, and Wilbur spoke with a friend and business associate who knew the Colonel personally.
Telecherry. What's a telecherry? T-O-E-C-H-E-R-I. Telecherry pepper. It gives it the aftertaste.
This, of course, was on top of Wilbur's own research and trial and error efforts. But perhaps the most useful thing of all is the fact that Wilbur's findings were adapted into a full-blown step-by-step recipe. The same cannot be said for certain other contender recipes in today's episode. Seriously, some of them are basically a list of ingredients without quantities or anything. Fun fact, this ingredient is completely verboten in our household. Stephanie had a traumatic experience as a kid with black pepper.
Completely banned.
So this is actually the first black pepper that I've had in over a decade.
Like, what happened? Did she sneeze or something? What kind of sneeze was it?
Because I've been married to Stephanie.
It's true.
Pretty much.
Not even on salad or pasta.
Nothing.
Not even in soup. We just don't use black pepper here.
Nothing. Sir, say when. Remember, sir, you can say when. When the brining, dredging, breading, and frying were finally complete, it was time to put Todd Wilbur's recipe head-to-head against KFC's original.
Should we do KFC first? It's delicious.
Virgo.
I definitely get some of the pepperiness. I definitely get some sort of aromatic something in there, but I don't really know what it is. And salt.
It's funny. For 11 herbs and spices in there, not getting a lot.
I'm mostly just tasting pepper, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm getting pepper. I
Yeah.
get the pepper on the back end, but I'm not getting a big spice mix. Interesting.
Let's
All right.
taste Todd.
Todd.
Shall we?
Here we go.
All right, here we go,
This
Todd.
is the man who literally wrote the book on secret recipes.
Counting on you.
Let's see. Is it on all sides?
Oh, we made great fried chicken.
Wow.
Hang on.
Wow.
I'm starting to notice something weird going on with the camera. Excuse me, is your camera okay, guys? Like, sorry it detracts from all the fried chicken eating, which I would like to try. Please give me the recipe. But, is your camera okay?
So yeah, first impression.
Like, this one's okay.
Our fried chicken is great.
The
Good
other
job,
one's
Steph.
not.
So good.
It's so good.
I'm so happy
This
right
is
now.
great.
Wow. The flavor is the thing that matters. I actually am not getting as much pepper in this one as I did from KFC. I like it a bit better, to be honest, but I think that KFC has a different flavor than this.
Yes. I'm not getting any of that like black pepperiness that I'm feeling on the back end of the KFC. In a scale of 1 to 10, matching KFC, what would you rate Todd Wilbur's?
I would actually only rate this about a 6. Sorry, Todd.
Real sick, that's pretty high. I would rate it at probably about a 4.
Wow. Okay, you're really dipping in there.
I gotta have somewhere to go. This is my
Evening
first
it out
one.
to
Maybe I'm
5.
artificially rating it too low.
I tried to aim for the middle, so I
Yeah.
had room on either side.
Now on to recipe contender number 2, which isn't exactly a recipe per se. It's actually a lab result published by author William Poundstone in his 1983 book, Big Secrets. That's right, this guy had a laboratory conduct a qualitative analysis on a sample of KFC coating mix in order to identify every ingredient that's present. What's noteworthy about Poundstone's findings was that the lab didn't find 11 herbs and spices. Not even close. In fact, the lab results identified just 4 ingredients total: flour, salt, black pepper, and MSG. Yeah, Poundstone verified that the seasoning mixture he tested was the only seasoning involved in the preparation process. No, there was no additional substance found in the entire sample, not a single grain. And yes, the lab was able to identify every single ingredient present in the sample. So according to Big Secrets, there are just 3 seasoning ingredients mixed into KFC's breading flour. That is a far cry from the 11 herbs and spices, especially considering that salt and MSG aren't technically herbs or spices at all.
Steph, I know that one of the things that you and I have always talked about with food theory is that we've wanted the ability to analyze recipes in a lab setting.
Oh my gosh, I want to send everything through a mass spectrometer.
Yeah, if any of you have access to a mass spectrometer, hit us up. We want to actually tap into the secret recipe of Diet Coke and other things. We promise we'll give your institution a shout out. So if there are any universities out there that need some shameless self-promotion, we are here to be shameless for you. She knows how to use a mass spectrometer.
I can use it safely, I promise.
Now, preparing fried
though.
chicken a la Poundstone was way more challenging than preparing Todd Wilbur's recipe. What the laboratory's qualitative analysis and Big Secrets didn't supply were proportions. The lab was asked to identify all ingredients present in the sample, but they were not asked to determine the quantities of those ingredients. So Steph and I were kind of on our own to determine the correct amounts of each seasoning ingredient. We made an educated guess by borrowing ideas from similar recipes, but still, Poundstone really left us hanging here.
This is how much I love Stephanie. I'm not making her touch the black pepper at all.
That is nice.
This is my gift to you, Stephanie.
I appreciate you.
Today is the day food theory graduates into becoming a chef. Aw, food theory, you're growing up into a legitimate recipe channel.
Andrew from Binging with Babish, we're coming for you.
Binging with Babish.
Not at all.
Watch out, here comes food theory. He's not afraid.
No, not even.
I'm afraid just thinking of him.
Eventually, I got over my fear and got back to work. After refamiliarizing ourselves with KFC's original recipe, Steph and I bit into our William Poundstone-inspired fried chicken, and you see the rest.
From an accuracy standpoint.
Yeah, from an accuracy standpoint, 1 to 10.
Accuracy rating, mine is a 4 or 5 on this one.
Wow, less?
Yeah, I think it's less.
I was gonna say mine is still a 4. It is about the same level of accurate. You got that saltiness in there, but and congratulations, you got flour, which is how you make fried chicken.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right.
All right.
Next.
Now, to be fair, Poundstone's laboratory test was performed nearly 40 years ago, and KFC's original recipe may have changed slightly since then. Also, Steph and I probably guessed a bit wrong on the ingredient proportions, but hey, that's kind of on old Poundstone. Next up, the fried chicken seasoning that sounds like it was someone's handle in a game of laser tag, 99X.
This one's actually really fascinating. So Colonel Sanders apparently was so disappointed with the KFC Corporation watering down his recipe or the instructions that they were giving out to franchisees of the name that he went to an external company, Marion K Spices, and said, hey, make me this spice recipe And then he encouraged all the people who were doing KFC restaurants to go with this spice recipe.
Yeah, it's actually here. It's bottled. You can buy it to this day.
Yeah, you can buy it, but it has to go by the name 99X because the KFC Corporation got into a lawsuit with these guys to basically be like, hey, stop it. No, get out of here.
Which
This is
maybe
our
like
recipe.
meant that they were on the right track.
No,
I feel like this has promise.
Personally, I think that this is the one that is going to knock it out of the ballpark. It also just solidifies Harlan's reputation as like difficult guy to work with. Here, I'm gonna sell my company to this larger company, but I'm gonna try to undermine them because I'm not happy with the work they're doing. Fascinating.
So the story behind 99X seems really promising, but it comes with a catch. We don't know the recipe of 99X. All we know are the ingredients that they've listed on the packaging, as required by the FDA. So we know that this spice blend contains, quote, monosodium glutamate, white and black pepper, fine flake salt, sage, coriander, and other natural spices. But that's it. It means if 99X winds up being the perfect taste match, the Colonel's secret is still pretty safe. Mary & Kay includes a brief, borderline cryptic recipe on their site, and that is what we're going to be testing today.
I gotta say, I just love the fact that one of the spices we're using today is called 99X. It's like the hardest core kitchen spice ever.
Right?
So clearly you can see a lot of black pepper in there. It smells really good. It's actually super fragrant. I'm shocked at how little spice that you actually need in fried chicken to make it taste good. That's probably been the biggest shock to me as we've been working on this so far. Look at it, there's like nothing in here. Nothing. It's all just much flour.
Mary & Kay's recipe was a cinch to make, and we were ready to put 99X to the test in no time. As always, we tasted KFC's original recipe chicken first, then the contender.
Right? This one is actually much closer. And it's not like too anything. It's not too salty. It's not too peppery. This one is really close, actually.
It's really, really close.
So on the accuracy scale of 1 to 10, I would give this one like an 8. Like
really
maybe
good.
I can taste a difference, but I'm not entirely sure all the time, which says to me that it's like up there. It's like an 8.
Yeah, I think if you gave me this in a blind taste test, I would have a really hard time knowing it was different from KFC's.
Yeah.
I think the 99X, without question, is the closest that we've done so far.
Yeah. It also might be my favorite so far.
It is my favorite so far.
Yeah, I really like this one. I would recommend that recipe above the other two, partially because it's so much easier. There's just, you buy one ingredient and you're kind of done.
Yeah.
And then it came out great. This one is also super crispy, just throwing it out there.
So the one thing that I would love to have seen with this actually is this mixture, but with the 99X cranked up a little bit, with the ratio a little bit higher in the spice category.
With just a little bit more, I feel like it would be like a 10.
Yeah, I feel like you could get it right there because right now it's just a little bit more subtle than what I'm getting out of the KFC.
You know what though? I'm not sure I would like it better if you did. I like this one a lot.
It's really good.
Like better than the KFC. Like
Ooh, really?
I like the first one better than the KFC.
Nice shades, Stephanie. Also, maybe I should recommend this spice to my dad. Like, he's kind of a chef as well. Like, he worked at Stroudsmore, where they make a bunch of exquisite food for events. You know, stuff like that. Not exquisite, because the only food I've eaten from Stroudsmore are fries and what was the other thing? Chicken strips, but still, they tasted exceptionally well, and my dad was working there at the time, so I'm pretty sure my dad would really like to have his hands on this spice.
Too. I really like fried chicken, I guess.
Steph is throwing KFC under the bus.
I know, sorry, man.
Now, the story behind our next recipe contender also seems really promising. In 2016, the food world got rocked by an article in the Chicago Tribune. Joe Lettington, the nephew of Colonel Sanders himself, came forward with this handwritten recipe found in an old scrapbook passed down to him from his Aunt Claudia Price, who was Harlan Sanders' second wife. While the note is not written in the Colonel's handwriting, Joe claims claims it contains the correct ingredients and proportions for the Colonel's secret blend. And Joe should know. He actually worked at Harlan's Diner when he was a kid and claims to have even mixed the blend of herbs and spices himself. Now, the Chicago Tribune tested this recipe themselves and determined that the capital T's on the recipe refer to tablespoons, not teaspoons. They claimed the recipe tasted quite similar to KFC's original recipe as written, but when they took the liberty of adding MSG, the recipe became, quote, virtually indistinguishable. So we took their word for it on both fronts. We went with tablespoons and we added MSG. The Chicago Tribune also prepared their chicken with a buttermilk egg bath instead of the skim milk egg bath that we've been using thus far. Since their results wound up being virtually indistinguishable, we followed their steps to the letter.
This is a lot of seasoning relative to all the other recipes that
Yeah.
we've done. This is a lot.
The ratio of flour to seasoning is much different.
4 tablespoons of paprika. This is gonna be a really spicy chicken.
Right?
Wow.
It's gonna be a really intense recipe.
This is so vastly different from all the other recipes we've done so far.
It's literally a completely different color than all of the other chicken
It's
recipes.
wild.
It's red, it's yellow, it's brown. You can actually see the seasoning in there. I'm most excited about this one.
Me too. This one's gonna be good, I think.
The recipe calls for 4 tablespoons of paprika, which makes for a much darker breading than we found in the previous recipes. I promise that color's not from staying in the fryer too long. It stayed in the fryer the exact same length as every other one of these tested. And also,
Okay, I'll take your word for it. I mean, paprika is the color red after all, so I'm not really surprised.
the breading had a really nice consistency when it hit our mouths.
Okay, so Matthew, here's what I'm gonna say about this,
Yeah.
which you will probably not find relatable.
Okay.
But growing up here in North Carolina, I used to occasionally go to like mom and pop places where they would serve like mom and pop fried chicken.
Sure.
It looked darker.
Sure.
It tasted spicier, and it was more similar to this than any of the other ones we've tried.
Interesting.
So this feels to me
Huh.
like a Southern style mom and pop recipe.
The weird thing about this one is, and the thing that I don't quite understand, I feel like it should have more flavor than it does. It looks like it's saturated with spice and flavor, and you saw the amount of spice and flavor that went into that mix. And I bite it, and there's not a whole lot of flavor there.
The buttermilk has made it super juicy, I will say
Yeah,
that.
it's super juicy. The meat is actually delicious, but definitely not KFC. On a scale of 1 to 10, does it match KFC? It's like,
This is like a 3.
like 2.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
it
was
was
rating it
maybe it was like KFC in the older times, but definitely not
at
now,
4
I guess.
before. The
Yeah.
other ones do a much, much better job.
I
of
can't
matching
believe
it.
these results, actually. I'm shocked.
Now, it's important to keep in mind that if this recipe is indeed authentic, it could very well date back to the 1950s or even 40s when the Colonel was still developing the recipe. It could be an example of the Colonel's true OG recipe the way he intended it, before KFC corporate got their finger-licking fingers in the mix. So the fact that it doesn't match the look or taste of contemporary KFC chicken should be taken with a grain of MSG. Something similar could also be said for our next recipe, known as TC34D. It also seeks to recreate the Colonel's OG recipe, as opposed to the fried chicken sold by KFC corporate today. But what you need to understand about TC34D is that it's a recipe meticulously, and I do mean meticulously, crafted by the internet hive mind.
If there is a secret, the internet will find it and tear it apart and solve it. And so you had a group of devoted KFC fans trying to actually solve the Colonel's secret recipe. And these guys weren't just content in solving it, they were getting down to the level of finding where in the world geographically these ingredients were coming from.
I mean, just take a look at this
Really?
recipe. It's not enough to add 5/16 teaspoons of ginger. They're asking you to find ginger specifically from Jamaica because the flavor profile is ever so slightly more accurate. Ready to add 0.020 grams of cardamom? Better make sure it's Guatemalan first. Definitely wasn't easy to find all these ingredients, even with Google's help. Couldn't help but wonder if Colonel Sanders really gave a hoot whether or not his white pepper was from Malaysia back when he was crafting his recipe out of a gas station. But hey, I'm not gonna knock it until I've tried this amazingly detailed recipe for myself. TC34D is believed to be a product of a now defunct internet forum, kfc.forumup.co.uk, which is inactive today because members believed that they'd cracked the recipe a while ago. For years, this dedicated group of internet sleuths used any and all information available to them to crack the Colonel's recipe. That meant adjusting the recipes through trial and error in their home kitchens and soaking up every scrap of information available to them. For instance, this photo, released by KFC, shows the 11 herbs and spices kept in the vault at KFC's headquarters in Louisville, Kentucky. The forum members absolutely picked this photo apart and made sure that their 11 herbs and spices matched the coloring of the vials in the picture. Notice those letters next to each ingredient in the TC34D recipe? Those refer to the corresponding lettered vials. Finally, as you might deduce from the titling method used for these recipes, TC34D is hardly the only one that these forum members came up with. It just happens to be the one that's the most famous, but there's certainly not unanimous consent that it's the most accurate. There are dozens of other recipes worthy of consideration, developed in these forums and otherwise, that we simply don't have the time to test in today's episode. Now then, how excited are we to try the crowdsourced recipe that harnesses the power of the entire internet? Approximately this excited.
Terrible. I'm so sorry.
Plop.
Folks, this recipe
I was
calls
gonna
for
drum
Tahitian
over.
vanilla bean. How could you not be excited about this? So after tasting KFC's original recipe, we took a bite out of TC34D.
Nope.
No, it does not taste the same at all.
Not even close.
Well, that's just anticlimactic.
Close.
There's like more ginger.
Not even close.
There's more
Internet.
paprika, which I can taste those things, first of all, which means they're not accurate, but
No, right?
all right.
I feel like-
it's tasty actually, but it's a very different fried chicken.
Oh, yeah. Team Internet,
Super wacky.
what you doing? You guys, you are so, they're like, it's gotta be Jamaican white pepper. Maybe you should have just focused on getting the 12 herbs and spice, 11
It's
herbs and
almost like
spices.
people who do analysis on the internet overcomplicate things.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine.
So Stephanie, when it comes to crowdsource on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the matching for KFC?
It's like
One.
one. Sorry, guys.
Right, like it wasn't.
Sorry,
it
I
wasn't close at all.
swear. We followed your recipe. We wanted it to, like, we are on Team Internet. We root for Team Internet.
Yeah.
This was just not our day.
Yeah, the group think was not really working. I would say, yeah, maybe it's a 2, maybe it's a 1. It's low.
Right.
The sweetness is the thing that
The
is
vanilla. What are you doing in
the
there?
vanilla really threw it off.
Now, it bears repeating that TC34D's aim was attempting to recreate the Colonel's personal, pre-corporate version of the secret recipe, so the goal of the recipe wasn't so much to match the taste of the contemporary KFC chicken, but I gotta say, the taste of TC34D was just so different. Not bad, it was really tasty, but to me it just didn't seem related to KFC's original recipe fried chicken in any discernible way. Tahitian vanilla is really sweet, and that sweetness really came through in the recipe, in a way that didn't really match my expectation of what Southern fried chicken usually tastes like.
So it leaves us with a very clear winner in terms of the matching potential. The 99X
One
very
ingredient.
clearly took it by a wide margin.
So does that actually solve the
99X.
problem? Because the
No.
whole problem here, right, is that it is a secret recipe, and we've solved that secret recipe using a secret spice.
So, okay, it doesn't solve it in actuality, but it does solve the problem, which is you can't recreate KFC's original recipe at your house. Actually, you can get very close, where you take it, you run with it, and you can recreate KFC at home.
However, there is one final ingredient that we have to test. Recently, KFC and all their marketing craziness decided, hey, why don't we release a telenovela-style romance called A Recipe for Seduction, starring Mario Lopez as Colonel Sanders. We actually cover this over on Film Theory today, so if you haven't seen that episode, check it out.
There's an
I'm
icon.
seeing
There's
that
an icon.
next.
There's an iCard in one of the corners.
Somewhere.
Probably this corner.
Yeah, probably that one.
Probably this corner. And in A Recipe for Seduction, there was something that we thought might be a hidden code, alluding to a secret ingredient that none of these recipes cover. Every time that Colonel Sanders is cooking in the kitchen or whatever, he is associated with citrus, some sort of magical bowl of citric fruit out there. It's very odd. Again, we go much deeper in depth in this on the film theory episode, but we wanted to test it out. We're like, is citrus the secret ingredient that KFC is trying to communicate to us via their telenovela made-for-TV special starring Mario Lopez?
You never know. We just leave no stone unturned and wanted some more fried chicken.
Okay, I know this sounds outrageous. Like, is Matt Pat honestly expecting you to believe that the Colonel Sanders put fruit in his recipe? No, but KFC corporate did, long after they purchased the company from the Colonel. Remember how KFC started using soybean oil in order to cut down on the trans fat? Well, citric acid, the chemical that gives citrus fruits their distinct sour taste, can be added to soybean oil to make it last longer. And that's exactly what KFC has started to do in recent years. They even say so on their website. Now, citric acid has a strong taste. Is it possible that it affects the flavor of contemporary KFC chicken, even though it's just an additive to the oil and not an explicit ingredient in the recipe? Was A Recipe for Seduction trying to tell us something by jamming over 70 fruit cameos into a 16-minute mini-movie? There's only one way to find out, friends.
So here we go, friends. This is our final batch of fried chicken. This is the 99X recipe plus the secret ingredient of citric acid from the telenovela A Recipe for Seduction.
First, we tasted KFC's original recipe one final time before moving on to the grand finale.
This is it, with citric acid.
Wow.
Is that the secret ingredient?
Am I imagining that it tastes a little bit closer?
It does taste a little bit closer. It tastes a
Is it a
little
9
Really?
now?
I think this bumps it up to a 9. I think this is it.
Really?
That can't be. Really?
Are you
Mario
kidding?
Lopez wouldn't lie.
Because it does taste just a little bit closer.
It does.
What?
It does. It is slightly closer.
Are we making it
No
up?
way.
No, I don't think we are.
No, it's got, I don't know.
What?
It's weird.
Matt, are you mean to tell me that this entire time, if I wanted some KFC made at home, I could have one secret spice and some orange juice? Bruh. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding.
It is very strange, but
I thought this was gonna be such an anticlimactic episode and we were gonna get there and be like, nope, no difference. But I swear it's a little closer.
it is. Yeah. Yep. Wow.
No way.
There it is.
Huh.
That's fascinating. I think that we've stumbled across it. I think if you take the 99X recipe, you crank it up just a little bit,
Add a little bit more than, yeah.
a little bit more than the ratios in the recipe that we got online, plus a little bit of citric acid from Recipe for Seduction in the oil, I think you got it.
This is KFC.
I think you have made KFC. It's
guys.
real good, guys.
It's great. I really recommend trying it at home. If you don't have a deep fryer, I think you could achieve very similar results with a pan fryer.
pan fry. I think that we have probably gotten as close as humanly possible to the KFC secret recipe without actually getting access to the KFC secret recipe.
I'm pretty convinced too.
I think this is it, guys. We
What a
tested-
successful episode.
This was great. Successful in many ways. So there you have it, friends. The KFC secret recipe. 99X plus a little bit of citric acid.
Who knew?
Who knew? We did.
Yeah.
Or at least
we just found out.
that's just a theory. A food
didn't know until now.
theory. Bon appetit.
Oh my god.
That was
Oh, gross.
We didn't plan that. We are the same person.
Thanks for watching, theorists. If you're hungry for more Kentucky Fried content, be sure.
Oh, don't worry. I will watch these. In fact, the film theory one is next. So, let's jump in, shall we? Now that we know the secret recipe for KFC chicken. Okie doke, let's take a look at The movie that exposed KFC's biggest secret.
Listen up, people. Here we go. Here's the plan, okay? We're gonna make a gaming console, right? A Kentucky Fried Chicken console. Best part, it's got a built-in chicken warmer. And then I want to make a comic book with different versions of me populate the multiverse. I want to be the voice of GPS navigation. And I want my own dating simulator. And I want Mario Lopez to play me in a Lifetime movie.
Yeah, I think the Colonel may have discovered a 12th secret herb, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. He discovered methamphetamine.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Film Theory. Yep, it is Film Theory. You did not accidentally click on a food theory episode. I promise you're in the right place. Theorists, today's episode is all about Kentucky Fried Chicken. Heck, all of today's episodes are about Kentucky Fried Chicken. Game theory, food theory, film theory, all about KFC. Yep, the fast food restaurant. And no, absolutely none of it is hashtag spawn. Probably should have been. Probably should have tried to have gotten that, but nope. Blame it on the winter crazies, blame it on quarantine brain, heck, blame it on the curse of the Colonel. But for our first ever three-way collaboration across all the theorists.
Oh, yeah. The other KFC theory they did was on Food Theory about the curse of Colonel Sanders in Japan and how it's false. You should probably go check that theory out.
Channels. Heck, it's actually a four-way collaboration because GT Live's involved too.
Look at this.
Oh, those games. Oh, wow.
No.
Whoa, the rivals? There's so many characters. There's...
That was
You know what? I think I'm gonna watch this off camera. Because I was not expecting that.
great.
Right?
That was.
I'm satisfied already.
I'm satisfied.
For our first ever four-way collaboration across all the Theorist channels, I had the idea to make it about KFC. Yes. What am I doing with myself? It seems insane, I get that, but bear with me here. As you probably know, KFC is the keeper of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of our time, Colonel Sanders' secret recipe blend of 11 herbs and spices. Today, KFC keeps the recipe physically locked in a vault in their Louisville headquarters. They've hired two separate companies to produce separate halves of the recipe so that no one person, not even KFC's own head chef, is privy to the entire thing. Naturally, this level of secrecy has piqued the curiosity of KFC fanatics across the globe. And for decades, people have been trying to do everything they can to figure it out. People have run lab analyses on the chicken served in KFC restaurants. They've attempted to recreate the exact flavor at home through meticulous trial and error. They've latched onto recipes found in heirloom scrapbooks. They've even picked apart the brains of the late Colonel Sanders' business partners. But according to KFC, no one has ever gotten it quite right. Which again is kind of ironic because the whole shtick is that no one person knows the true recipe. So do you know it, KFC? Do you not know it? Suspicious MatPat is suspicious. My eyes narrow in your direction, KFC. So the TLDR here is that plenty of people have approached this from a variety of different scientific and analytic angles, but has anyone ever tried to solve it from a film angle? I ask because in December, KFC released a movie, a Lifetime mini movie to be more precise. It's titled A Recipe for Seduction, and yes sirree, that is Mario Lopez playing the Colonel himself, Harland Sanders, a little adorable crouton wearing dollar store facial hair.
Don't call me crouton.
Now, it would be easy to just write this thing off as some marketing stunt, and yes, it is most definitely that. The script is at times indistinguishable from a KFC ad.
The chicken is delicious, Bunny.
Oh, please. We both know I can't cook like this. It's my new chef. He's incredibly talented.
Though I gotta admit, not many chicken ads I've seen in the past feature a plot where a girl's mother is having an affair with her daughter's fiancé.
You remember our long weekend in the vineyard?
How could I forget?
What?
If you marry my daughter, I promise there'll be more long weekends in your future.
What? What am I watching? Oh, it's so gross. What sort of post-apocalyptic capitalist dystopia do we live in? It is a KFC soap opera. And here I am, sitting and writing an episode about this. Oh gosh, I'm part
I need to take a second. I need to take a second to comprehend this. Okay. I'm sorry, I just needed to process the sheer insanity of a plot.
How could I forget?
If you marry my daughter, I promise there'll be more long weekends in your future.
What? What am I watching? Oh, it's so gross. What sort of post-apocalyptic capitalist dystopia do we live in? It is a KFC soap opera. And here I am, sitting and writing an episode about this. Oh gosh, I'm part of the problem, aren't I? Anyway, I'm here to tell you that A Recipe for Seduction might be more than just an ironic, self-aware way to boost KFC sales. Much more. You see, theorists, I believe that this mini-movie is absolutely saturated with hints about the Colonel's world-famous secret recipe. That's right, A Recipe for Seduction may also be a recipe for KFC's original recipe. And that, my friends, is a recipe for a film theory. So hold on to your badly spirit-gummed facial hair, theorists, because this one is gonna be finger-licking good. Now, in order to properly enjoy this mini-movie, you're gonna have to take everything you might know about the real-life Harlinda Sanders, the cantankerous senior citizen who launched the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise in 1952, and who one time punched a dude out cold in court, and jettison it all out from your mind. See, KFC's been playing around with the whole Colonel Sanders character fast and loose in recent years. From their famous commercials in which different actors portray the Colonel, to their DC Comics collaboration in which different versions of the Colonel exist across the multiverse, to a KFC-themed dating simulator which we played on GT Live that allows people to date the Colonel. And they're at it again in A Recipe for Seduction. Here, Harland Sanders is young, contemporary, and likes to show off his biceps. And for as crazy as the real-life stories of Harland are, he, to my knowledge, did not launch his chicken restaurant after surviving a kidnapping and murder attempt by his rich employer.
Just kill him already!
Mom!
Now, the plot of A Recipe for Seduction feels very on brand for a Lifetime movie. A beautiful young woman named Jessica is being pressured to marry Rich.
We're weeks away from the bank repossessing our house.
But it's so unfair. Our family's livelihood shouldn't depend on who I choose to marry.
I'm sorry, Jessica. Marrying Billy is the only thing that can save us.
But instead of falling for Billy, the wealthy jerk that her mother wants her to marry, Jessica instead falls in love with her family's newly hired private chef, Harland Sanders.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Harland doesn't have himself a penny to his name, but he does have a secret recipe that could one day change the world.
Tell me about you. The Harland Sanders story.
If I were the author of it, I'd have a chapter in there about my secret recipe changing the world.
Oh, a secret recipe. How mysterious.
So it pretty much has everything you want in a feature-length Lifetime rom-com. Campy romance, over-the-top villains, soap opera-level violence, fried chicken. But A Recipe for Seduction is also super self-aware and condensed down into a speedy 16 minutes. I'm happy to report that it's actually a really fun watch, even for a guy like me who doesn't usually seek out Lifetime movies. In fact, if you want to watch it right now, the whole thing is available on YouTube. Again, hashtag not spawn. But if you do end up going over there and watching it, leave a comment telling them that they should sponsor us in the future. You don't have to pay me for these videos, but please just send me a giant statue of Harland Sanders himself. But the moment in the movie that really got my theory juices flowing was this. Billy, intent on finding a way to get the hunky new chef out of the picture, sneaks into Harland's kitchen and finds his secret recipe written on a piece of paper. And they actually show it on screen for a split second.
Secret's out, chicken man.
Rewind that one back. Pause it. There. Folks, this is it. At long last, the Colonel's secret recipe is gonna be revealed to us. Zoom in. Enhance. Enhance again. Okay, so that's a bit of a letdown. There is no new info on the paper. It's just KFC teasing us. But this is what I'm talking about when I say that the mini-movie is self-aware. They know that we were all gonna pause it in that moment. They know that we're dying to find out the secret of this recipe. And just because they didn't show us the handwritten recipe on screen doesn't mean that they didn't give us something to snack on. As I kept watching, I began to notice a recurring theme. See if you can spot it.
Yeah.
For some reason, there are citrus fruits littered throughout this entire mini-movie. Remember, its runtime is only 16 minutes, and yet lemons, limes, and oranges make dozens of on-screen appearances. And look, I get it. The movie is about a chef, so we're bound to see a number of ingredients throughout the movie. But this very specific pairing of lemons, limes, and oranges appear across multiple scenes. It was enough to get me suspicious. Sure, maybe they're just there to add a splash of color on screen, but how do you explain this?
Harland's Sanders, the new cook.
Harland was head chef at Le Petit Pamplemousse.
It's an incredibly random line that doesn't go anywhere, and it's weirdly specific in the way that it gets me to start asking questions. You see, Le
What does
Petit
that mean?
Pamplemousse translates to the little grapefruit, yet another citrus fruit. I mean, they could have picked any fancy-sounding restaurant name they wanted. They could have tossed in a chicken reference or a Kentucky reference, but they went with grapefruit? Coincidence? I think not. It is so random that it can't be random. Friends, this can be no oversight on the part of the filmmakers. What's the deal with all of this citrus? Because surely there can be no citrus fruits in the Colonel's secret recipe, right? The real-life Harlan Sanders was an accomplished cook and proud Southerner. For him or anyone else to put fruit into a savory Southern fried chicken recipe would be, well, it would be unusual to say the least. Sure, I guess fruit technically meets the criteria to be considered a spice since it's part of a plant that's used to flavor food, but there's no grapefruit on any spice rack I've ever seen. So what's the deal, KFC? Why'd you go out of your way to litter your own mini-movie with all these citrus references unless there was a reason to do so? So I did some research on the topic and I discovered that we can all rest easy. There is absolutely no reason to believe that Harlan Sanders ever included citrus fruits in his fried chicken recipe. However, the Kentucky Fried Chicken franchise is a different story. In fact, the fine print on their own website explicitly states that citrus is indeed involved. More specifically, citric acid. Now, let's hit the pause button for a moment because this is an important distinction to make. KFC may call it their original recipe, but the fried chicken you're served at KFC today is not identical to the fried chicken you would have been served at KFC in, say, the 1960s. See,
Now I'm really starting to think I should have watched this first.
in order to keep the food quality consistent across their growing number of franchises, Kentucky Fried Chicken, which Harlan Sanders sold in 1964, elected to streamline the processes by which KFC's menu items were prepared. After all, not every KFC employee can be as gifted in the kitchen as the great Colonel Sanders, so the simpler they could make it, the better. It should also be noted that Harlan Sanders was quite unhappy and quite vocal about what he perceived to be a slippage in quality after the KFC franchise was sold to the new ownership. So yeah, over the decades, there have been some tweaks to the Colonel's original recipe for business-related reasons. KFC claims the original 11 herbs and spices remain unchanged to this very day, although they've admitted other aspects of the recipe and preparation methods have received facelifts, such as the adoption of soybean oil as their frying oil of choice, especially in the US. You see, in the 20th century, soybean oil wasn't yet cost-effective enough to be used by huge franchises like KFC, but in recent years, soybean oil has grown in popularity and availability thanks to the fact that it's low in saturated fats and contains no trans fats. However, while healthier, soybean oil does have a downside. Soybeans in their natural state have a high concentration of linolenic acid, which causes the oil to spoil much more quickly than traditional frying oils. Fortunately, there are certain additives, including citric acid, that can improve soybean oil's performance as a frying oil. So that's why KFC now adds citric acid to its frying oil. It allows them to use a healthier oil. Now, most of the additives listed in the fine print of KFC's site, like TBHQ, don't affect the taste of the food in any detectable way. Citric acid, however, has an extremely strong taste, and it's possible that the sour citrusy taste is at least mildly detectable in the fried chicken. Care to guess what citrus fruits contain the highest concentration of citric acid? They would be lemons and limes, followed by grapefruits and oranges. That's right, the exact same four seemingly out-of-place citrus fruits that are featured throughout A Recipe for Seduction. This is the real reason KFC made a mini-movie centering around the Colonel's secret recipe. They wanted to point us recipe seekers in the right direction. Many people have attempted to recreate KFC's original recipe over the course of many years, but their so-called original recipe is ever evolving. So anyone who wants to recreate the exact taste of the fried chicken at KFC needs to keep up with the times. Citric acid is a contemporary tweak to the recipe, which is why KFC decided to draw our attention to it using a contemporary reimagining of the Colonel in A Recipe for Seduction. But hey, that's just a theory, is what I would normally say at this point. See, we don't run into this kind of situation every day here on Film Theory, but
it's not a theory. It's not just a theory now, is it? No, it's not.
Today, we don't have to speculate about this and wait to see if it's true. We can actually run an experiment and find out today if this was just a theory after all. And that's exactly what Steph and I are doing over on the Food Theory channel in a video uploaded at the same time as this one. We've taken this theory, along with some of the most legit KFC original recipe recreation attempts out there, and we're answering the question once and for all. What is KFC's secret recipe? What's the blend of spices? Is the inclusion of citric acid the missing puzzle piece that's kept us from matching the taste of KFC's fried chicken exactly? Spoiler alert, I think we found ourselves a solution. It didn't make sense to do it over here, so head on over to Food Theory right now to see what it takes to crack the code. That episode is up right now, so click the video that you see on screen or the link in the top line of the description to check it out. And once you've done that, head on over to Game Theory, where we are also talking about KFC and their next generation gaming system. No joke, that has itself a chamber to keep your chicken warm, which, the biggest shocker of all, is not as dumb as you think. So if you want to follow the natural viewing loop, I'd suggest heading...
I'm watching that next. So, yeah, let's go there. Okay, so the last one. KFC just won the console wars. Let's watch it.
And with the KF Console's patented chicken chamber, you can keep your chicken hot and ready to eat between rounds of gaming.
Wait, who in their right mind is gonna want to eat fried chicken in between rounds of Call of Duty?
Well, now, who wouldn't want to eat my delicious fried chicken as their gamer fuel of choice?
Anyone who doesn't want to have a wad of napkins next to their desk? I could not think of a greasier food than fried chicken.
Well, come on now. Think of it as performance-enhancing finger lubrication.
There's no way that works.
My matchmaking rank doesn't lie.
Wow.
Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, is what I want to be saying, but nope. Welcome to Game Theory, and episode 3 in our 3-way KFC crossover full of finger-licking good content. In case you've missed them so far, Food Theory is covering the Colonel's secret recipe, Film Theory is covering the KFC romance movie starring Colonel Sanders, and today on Game Theory, well, we'll get to that. All 3 theories released for you today, all 3 theories ready to binge, all 3 theories completely not sponsored. But you know what? It's early 2021. Without new movies coming out and limited few games, you gotta find content where you can get it. But how does gaming and KFC mix? Well, the two cross over a lot more than you'd think. For instance, back in 2015, they released Colonel Quest, a very real and very playable tribute to old school gaming, where you play as Colonel Sanders in a variety of minigames like Baby Business, where your objective is to, quote, catch as many babies as you can so the Colonel won't get sued for malpractice. There was also Courtroom Brawl, where you play as a lawyer in a game where you experience the real trials and tribulations of the legal profession by KOing the client in under 30 seconds to earn a gold drumstick. This is a real game. Someone in KFC's marketing department thought this was the best way to spend their money, to get people to buy more fried chicken. And frankly, I couldn't be happier. They made the right call. They even made limited edition drumstick-shaped controllers to go with it. If old school beat-em-ups aren't your jam, no worries, KFC still has you covered. Head over to Steam for the low price of free, and you can download I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good dating simulator. As for how to play these games, well, might I suggest the KFC branded controller for your Xbox Series X. And if you're a PC gamer, well, KFC's got you covered there too, with their fried chicken keyboard, mouse, and USB stick. For all you mobile gamers out there, KFC hasn't forgotten you either. The Gamers Box 2.0 is a takeout box that doubles as a Bluetooth controller and dock for your phone. And of course, how could we forget KFC's foray into the world of virtual reality? That's right, gamers, invest in a VR setup and you too can experience the hard way, a KFC-themed escape room training demo? Either way, it's definitely a thing that is KFC branded that you can do in your VR headset. Just don't throw the chicken on the floor or else Colonel Sanders' laser beam eyes are gonna intervene. And no, that is
Well, that escalated quickly.
is not a joke. That actually happens in the game. Heck, KFC could just rebrand itself as kinda funny content at this point. Now, admittedly, all of these are things that KFC has done for the memes and for the marketing exposure, but all of them are also very real items that the company has actually made. So when KFC announced late last year that they were entering the console wars and challenging Sony and Microsoft with a console of their own, the KF console, I wasn't surprised, and I wasn't about to brush it off as a joke, even if it was very clearly intended to be one, because you will presumably be able to buy and own this console. Honestly, I'm just hoping that KFC picks up the hint. We could definitely use a new editing computer and more fried chicken, just saying. All right, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty, shall we? Technically, this thing isn't really a console. If you dig into the specs, it's really more of a KFC-branded gaming PC that's being built in partnership with a PC part company, Cooler Master. But it does have one killer feature that sets it apart from your typical gaming PC, the patented chicken chamber. A chamber in your PC to keep your chicken warm. And you know what? I'm here today to tell you that this thing, this unholy creation of self-aware marketing made in a modern capitalist dystopia, all to get you to buy more frickin' fried chicken, this KF console with the chicken chamber, it's actually not as dumb as you might think. In fact, it's kind of brilliant. It might just have won the console wars. Step aside, PS5. The KF console may just have gotten you beats. I'm not even joking. I'm not. I wish I was. Stay tuned. You'll see what I'm talking about. According to Cooler Master, the chicken chamber keeps your food warm by utilizing the system's natural heat and airflow. PC and game console components, especially the CPU and graphics card, tend to generate a lot of heat. And a big part of any modern design is heat management.
Yeah, they do tend to cause radiation, but this is what these rocks I have are for.
This is usually done with...
I pressed the wrong button. Oops. So you see, what I have here is called shungite. These special dark-looking rocks, they can absorb radiation pretty much. Just put them next to or on your gaming console and it will not be overheated, or at the very least as much as it is. Trust me, I've seen it. It actually works. So, if you want that as an alternative to the KFC console, just look it up.
Fans to vent hot air out of the system to keep the components from overheating. The hot air is usually expelled through vents in the back, or if you own an Xbox Series X, the vents on the top of the system. But the KF console instead expels the hot air into the chicken chamber, so that your PC can double as a mini toaster oven. Now, that idea of using the excess heat, usually referred to as heat waste, to warm your food might seem like it's a novel idea, but the crazy thing is that KFC isn't the first company to do this. In fact, the concept has been around in a consumer product since 1963, with more than 16 million homes making use of it. Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind you of the Easy Bake Oven. Remember these pieces of junk? The kid-friendly ovens that had a tray large enough to quote-unquote cook 4 cookies at a time, each the size of a quarter and coming with a pre-mixed dough packet that tasted like cardboard. Well, the entire idea behind the Easy Bake Oven was using heat waste to cook. The reason it was kid-friendly was because it had no built-in heating element. Instead, it had slots for incandescent light bulbs. Incandescent light bulbs, like the components in your PC, generate quite a bit of heat. Shouldn't be all that surprising considering the entire way those light bulbs work is by heating a tungsten filament inside of them until it becomes hot enough to glow. And instead of just letting that heat float off into the universe, pushing us that much closer to our own inevitable heat death, the oven instead used it to, you know, cook, kind of. If you remember these things, well, you might be one of the last generations to have grown up with them because they're now discontinued on account of modern light bulbs being too efficient. It's true. While classic incandescent light bulbs would generate a ton of heat waste, modern fluorescent and LED bulbs are just way more efficient.
Yeah, LED light bulbs are the best light bulbs to get. Thank you for clarifying something we already knew.
Great for the environment, but bad for Hasbro's line of Easy Bake Ovens. Anyway, with that little history lesson over, the takeaway here is that KFC's chicken chamber is already a proven concept. If 200-watt incandescent bulbs are enough to serve as a heating component for your Easy Bake, then a gaming PC with a 650-watt power supply definitely can. Now, that 650-watt power supply isn't 100% confirmed, but it's the best estimate we have for what a PC like this would need. We can also confirm this by looking at other master cooler pre-built systems with the same specs. Of course, this leaves open a question. Out of all of the power that the PC consumes, how much heat waste is actually getting generated? Just like we saw with the Easy Bake Oven, if the system gets too efficient, well, our hot chicken is gonna be more like a cold turkey. So place your bets, friends. If the PC is consuming, like we estimated, 650 watts, how much of that is actually gonna get converted to heat? Go ahead, take a guess. 20%? 50%? The answer is, drumroll please, almost all of it. One thing you might remember from science class is the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy is never lost, it only changes form. And basically that means every bit of energy that gets fed into your computer's components will eventually get converted to heat energy. That's why it shouldn't be any surprise that the CPU and GPU of your computer, which are the parts that use the most power, are also the parts that generate the most heat. The only energy that doesn't get converted into heat is the energy that takes other forms, like the kinetic energy of the moving parts of the fan, or the radiant energy from any fancy lighting system that you might have in there. In fact, the KF console is actually way more efficient than the Easy Bake Oven, because that was powered by bulbs that were converting a lot of their power into light instead of heat. Now compare that to the KF console, where over 99% of the power that it consumes eventually gets converted to heat. In short, this PC is capable of effectively functioning like a 650-watt oven. For comparison, a toaster oven typically uses about 1200 watts. So the KF console is doing half that. Sure, this KF console might take a bit longer to heat up your frozen pizza rolls, but it will get the job done. Plus, they market this as something to keep your food hot, which is something that it is more than adequate at. I mean, the heating lamps that they use in fast food restaurants to keep your food warm are usually only 250 watts. So if there was any doubt in your mind that the KF console could, as advertised, keep your chicken hot and ready to eat, worry no more, friends. It is more than up to the task. But that's only half the equation here, because the entire point of the KF console's chicken chamber is that it serves as a heating system for the food while also serving as a cooling system for the PC itself. After all, the reason you want the PC to draw heat away from the CPU and GPU is to keep it from overheating. That means that in an ideal world, our food should be absorbing as much of the heat as possible. The more heat the food absorbs, the less heat is left to leak out of the chicken chamber and back into the system. Our chicken chamber essentially has to work as a heat sink. If it doesn't, the computer is gonna fry itself. So how good of a heat sink is fried chicken? What we're looking for is something with high isobaric volumetric heat capacity, which is just a measure of how much heat a substance is capable of absorbing. Luckily, this is the kind of thing that's been printed in the tables of hundreds of material science textbooks. You of course saved the book from that metallurgy class that you took to fill freshman science requirements, didn't ya? No? Just me? Well, luckily I got you covered. Ranking substances by isobaric volumetric heat capacity, at the top of the list is water. Good old H2O, yeah! Shouldn't come as much of a surprise. Water is one of the most common coolants used in power plants around the world. Maybe even your computer has itself a water-cooled system. After water come metals like steel, iron, beryllium, and copper, all of which are pretty commonly used metals in computer heat sinks. Following these metals is liquid ammonia, which isn't very practical for our purposes, considering that ammonia is a gas at room temperature. But right after that is animal tissue. The Wikipedia version of this table notes animal tissue, parentheses, including human, which, while very true, is also a very strange thing to point out. Anyway, all of this is great news for the KF console, because animal tissue in the context of a kitchen is better known as meat. As it
Oh gosh.
turns out, meat has an incredibly high specific heat capacity, thereby making it great at absorbing heat waste. Not quite as good as water, but pretty dang close, being 88% as effective. So, if you're the ultimate try-hard gamer who wants to min-max the optimal chicken chamber heatsink, the answer is to put in some water. And if you're willing to make some concessions for the sake of flavor, maybe add a flavor packet in there to make some broth or soup or something. But you're almost just as good using the KF Console's patented chicken chamber exactly as they've advertised it, for keeping your chicken hot and ready and your computer cool and performance optimized. Who knew that a console idea that seemed like it was just for the memes could actually produce a cooling solution that is, literally and figuratively, pretty dang cool? KFC, can I have a console now, please? But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory. Food theory? Either way, bon appetit. And now that you're done with this episode, continue the crazy...
I don't think I will be, because I have literally just finished all 3 of these videos. And I gotta say, what a ride it's been. Like, you mean to tell me that a secret spice plus citric acid can make chicken almost completely the same as KFC fried chicken? Their console is actually good, and that the novella series is actually good? Well, maybe I gotta watch that. I mean, honestly, what a ride. Anyways, guys, that's going to be all for today. Please subscribe to Food Theory, Game Theory, Film Theory, and GT Live. I am going to be watching that Colonel Sanders dating game. Maybe I'll stream it myself. If you guys want me to stream the Colonel Sanders dating game, please tell me in the Discord server or in the comments below. What am I doing with my life? And have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.